we're going to go to make a new project, go through the usual steps, project for my name. We're going to use 11 by 17. Make sure this area here says inches. All right, not trying to call anyone out, but we had multiple people working with points or pixels. So make sure it's 11 inches by 17 inches. We only need one artboard. We're not going to be printing, so we'll just keep this color mode, RGB, screen 72 PPI. So these are all your settings. Should look like this. Okay, then press create. Here's my artboard. And I think Maze Runner, good idea. We've already been working with labyrinths, so we kind of have a foundation for that. I think didn't I even show there was kind of like a minimalist movie poster for the labyrinth inspiration, possibly. I think I might have put that in there, maybe not. Anyway, so we already know about layers. We're going to be thinking about like a solid color as a shape layer for our background. So I actually have only seen like the first hour and a half of Maze Runner, but I'm gonna use gray. Is that an acceptable color for Maze Runner?
I mean, brown.
Brown? Okay.
And whites would probably be your best bet.
Then I will do brown. Actually, I'm gonna.
You could do like a lighter brown if you need to make it closer to the gray.
Yeah, I think. Oh, I can always change it later. That's a good thing. So, width 11 by 17. I'm going to align the shape. Also, if you're trying to follow along and things look a little weird, come up to Window and Workspace and click on Essentials Classic. So the Essentials Classic Workspace has all these options over here and above. And so if I'm clicking on any of these, but you don't see them, it might be helpful to follow along by changing it. Yeah?
So how did you get to the Essentials?
Come up to Window at the top. You see where it says Window at the very top? And then go down to Workspace, which is a few from the top. And then click on Essentials Classic.
I don't see the workspace.
It should be like 4.
Oh, okay, cool. Essentials. Okay, thank you.
Yep. Okay. All right, and so again, I'm not going to be taking any time to like come up with like clever stuff about this poster. This is more just a demonstration of kind of a style and what we're going to be thinking of. I know it involves labyrinths and mazes, so you know what? How about I just make something real quick? I'm going to lock this layer 1 where I put this background layer. And actually for extra speed, I'm going to cheat. I'm just going to make, let's say, like a square here. I'm going to change the stroke to white, make it a little thicker. I'm going to align this in the center. This is where I'm going to be thinking already about the rule of thirds. So it's not the type of thing where it's this exact placement. You're going to be kind of balancing the weight of the visual elements. So I'll be tweaking this later. Let me go ahead and I'm just going to a little more.
Question.
Yeah.
So is it possible to change the shape of the artboard itself? Like rather than changing it into like
You.
a triangle?
So you're talking about like the actual artboard that we're working with?
Yeah, like the actual.
Well, we're going to keep this 11 by 17.
Oh, okay.
11 by 17 is called tabloid size. It's actually a setting of paper that can be easily printed on, especially here in the United States. So that's why it's 11 by 17 is just one of the kind of standard sizes. So I know that we're not printing this, but it's just good to kind of have that in our minds about working with something that's easily printable. Because you can take it to any printer, and if you go to print out a poster or something, it's 11 by 17, they're going to be able to print it just fine. Okay, so that's why we're constraining it to 11 by 17. So I'm just going to repeat this square shape. I'm copying it, pasting it in place, and I'm going to resize it down. I'm just going to go through this pretty fast. Okay, so let's just pretend this is my maze. I'm going to select everything, right-click or control-click. I'm going to group them all together. So now all these layers here, I can just click and move them around. And then, so on Adobe Illustrator, you have the Type tool over here. It has a little T. It's also keyboard shortcut T on your keyboard. Click on that. Make a new layer. I'm going to just lock the maze layer. And then I can either click and start typing, or I can click and drag and make a text box, which is what I'm going to do. When I let go, it automatically fills it with filler type. We call this lorem ipsum, but that's just a filler for now. So I'm going to type in Maze Runner. I'm using all caps. And then, so we're using type for the first time. So I just made this text box, and I typed in the word here. So here it is. But it's small. So now we have to start manipulating, getting the type exactly how we want it. First off, we want to change the color. I want to have it. I'm just for now, I'm going to have it be white as well. So just like we can change the color for an object, either up here or here, the fill color, I can do the same thing for text. I'm going to change it to white. So I click on white. Now the text is white here. Right now it is left aligned. So within this text box, the text is right up against the left side. We want it to be aligned to center. So up on my screen here, I can click on Align Center. It's at kind of top right. If you don't see this, there's also a special window for editing text. It is, so if I click on Window and come down to Type, and I hover over Type, I can click on Character. And it's this little tab here. It has a little A with a line beside it. This is where I can change the size, spacing, leading, kerning, all those things that we're not worried about right now. Don't worry about that stuff. But I can also click over here on Paragraph, and that's where I can also find Align Center. So I click on that. Now the little maze runner is right in the center of this text box. And I'm going to make sure the text box is aligned in the artboard. Okay, now it is. And now where it says these two little T's here, 12 point, this is the size of the font of the text that we're looking at. So I can type in any number here, or I can click on the arrows, and as I increase the number, it starts getting bigger, okay? I can also change the typeface. So right now, it says the name of this typeface is Myriad Pro. One of my favorites is Source Sans Pro. I'm going to use bold, so I can change. Oh. Okay. So we can change the typeface, light, extra light, italic, bold, semi-bold, black. You have some options here. You're not going to have all these options for every single typeface. Only ones that are included with a specific typeface.
Can you not change it? Like with the little thing
Change what?
Like if it's bold or not bold?
For this, I mean, well, this you have within Source Sans Pro, you have bold, semi-bold, black, regular, light. So you have all those options. If I think you're talking about like if you're working in Microsoft Word and you can press
Yeah.
bold.
That was kind of my question.
Yes, you can do that. However,
This looks different.
it's best practice to use typefaces that are designed with bold or black or light in mind, because that means the designer who's putting their hard work into this typeface that they're sharing with the world, they are like really considering how should this be scaled up. So they're putting a lot of their effort and their skills into making a bold version, whereas if just like kind of like cheating the boldness, it's just like adding extra weight, and that's gonna not be the same as like someone who's like making sure all the elements are the same.
So it's just like thought through, like how it's gonna look, and
Yep.
it'll look bad if you bold something that's not supposed to be that way.
It can look bad. Yes. And I would, if someone is putting their life's work into making these typefaces, which type designers are very proud of their work, they're going to make sure that the bold version is like the best possible version.
Right.
Yeah.
But is there there's a way to do it though, right? If you wanted to, there's a button for it. You have a stroke.
Yeah.
It's the easiest way.
I would not even try that in Illustrator. I would only use fonts that have bold, semi-bold, black options, and then you can just kind of get in the practice of making sure you're using a typeface that kind of is designed for that use. So this one I'm using Source Sans Pro. I went ahead and used, so above bold is black. That's just the term for something that's thicker than bold. I can move this around. I can treat it just like an object. And I can change the size of the text box. I can make a new text box below it. What's a quote from the movie? Do you know of anything? Is there any
That's the person who's read the book 17 times but doesn't ever remember anything.
Okay.
So I don't have it off the top of my head.
Like you make up something like, I don't know, some characters say,
I got one from
let's
the second
go, or
movie's quote.
the what?
I got one from the second movie.
Okay. What is
If
it?
you ain't scared, you ain't human.
Huh?
If you ain't scared, you ain't human.
If you perfect. See, that's a great quote. Let's see. Do I want to make that all caps? Yeah, sure. All right. So I'm going to change this to white. But now, we don't want this typeface to be the same size as our title. That's just, it's not going to make sense that way. I'm kind of imagining this text block kind of being smaller, thinner. I'm going to change this to Source Sans Pro. Well, let's just try light. I'm going to make it a lot smaller. And maybe it'll just fit kind of neatly. Let's actually make it a little bit bigger. So we have a lot of typefaces in Illustrator, but you can also search for Adobe fonts. And there's a website here that will come up. So Adobe fonts. Looks like I have to sign in. All right, let me do this real quick. And you have a whole library of all kinds of different typefaces. And you can filter them, calligraphic, geometric, futuristic, friendly, funky, different classifications, sans serif, serif. I'm not going to go into a lot of stuff because you'll probably learn some of these in other future classes. And then if you find one that you really love, you can also type in your example text. So let's say I want to try different fonts for Maze Runner. I can type it in here, and I can see all these different options about how each of these will look for the title or whatever text you're putting in. And then if you find something you like, you can press View Family. And it'll show you a lot of these, not all of them. We'll show you some type specimens about how this type is kind of being used, what it looks like in different ways. These are pangrams. These are sentences that use every letter of the English alphabet. So you can see all of them in one sentence. And then once if say you like this one, you like this font, you can come up here and press Activate these 6 fonts. And it might take a minute or two. But eventually you should get a notification saying the font has been activated in Creative Cloud. If it doesn't show you a notification, then just wait a little bit. Let me see if it's in here now. And then lastly, we want to add a texture overlay. All right, so then come to Google. I'm going to do a Google image search for high resolution. Do you think the walls on the mazes, would they be like concrete or stone? What do you think they'd be made out of?
Probably concrete.
Okay. Concrete texture. Okay. So I get all these images that pop up of different concrete textures. I'm going to click on Tools. I can change the size to large. So for Google Images, so I'm clicking on Tools, going to Size, and it's going to filter the results for large images. I'm going to choose one that's really intense, really noticeable, just so as be a good example of how it looks on the poster. I like to just right-click on the image, press Open a new tab. Let me take a look at it. Okay. Now I'm right-clicking or control-clicking, pressing Save Image As. This is going to go in your Assets folder. So like I have Project 4. I'm making an Assets folder. I'm going to save it in there. I'm going to come back to my design. Here's my image of the concrete. I'm going to click, drag it over. I'm going to go ahead and rotate this so it's vertical. Now that I have it kind of covering the whole artboard, I can reduce the size if I want, but I want to make sure it covers the entire artboard. But I'll just go ahead and decrease a little bit. And then when I'm selected, I go ahead and press Embed. Make sure you embed the photo files, the image files. Click on it. Come over here to the transparency window. If you don't see it, you can come up to Window and then down to Transparency. And then we can do blend modes, which we briefly looked at with the mandala. And I'm going to go through different versions of this. So With multiply, you see how that's already changing it a lot. Let's say I want it to, I'm going to keep going through. Maybe there'll be something a little less intense. You know, that's actually not too bad. Let's try overlay. It's not too bad either, but you know, definitely more noticeable. If you find one that you like that's just maybe a little bit too you know, visually heavy, you can also, so with overlay, I can also still decrease the opacity, and then it starts disappearing a bit. Now, if I do something like this, depending on the blend mode you use, it may start affecting, you know, different areas of your shapes and text. If you don't want the texture, let's see if I go back to, yeah, so when I use multiply, that texture goes over the text as well, and it completely alters the color of the text. That's because I have this image over the text layer. So I can change that. I can go back to my Layers tab. I can lock it. Actually, I have the text on the same layer that I put the texture. So let me make a new layer. I'm going to move the texture layer to the layer above. I'm going to select the text. I'm cutting it, making another layer above the texture layer. I'm pasting it in place. And now it's just, you know, now it's back to the white text above the texture layer. Now, obviously, you may not like this either, but, you know, you can start playing with the opacity of the text now. So if I come down, make the opacity of the text a little bit less, you know, it'll still stand out, but maybe it blends in a little bit more with the texture behind it. But I think this blend mode is pretty ugly. I kind of liked overlay, so maybe a little bit decrease opacity. And you can do a clipping mask if the texture layer is larger than your artboard. You can do the clipping mask technique that we went over one of the earlier projects. Do you guys remember how to do that, or should I go over that one more time? Okay. If you forget how to do it, it's easily YouTube how to make a clipping mask in Adobe Illustrator. But I can go ahead and export. This artboard, project 4. I'm going to make an exports folder. PDF X1A 2001. Save. Okay. And here's my poster. All right, so I just made that in, what, 30 minutes? Plus it's a lot of extra talking. Process-wise, this is going to be very simple. I don't see a lot of reason to make this too complicated with too many objects and shapes and stuff. We want to keep it simple. I'm basically starting with 2 colors, that kind of light brown and white. You can have up to 3. And the rest of it, I want you guys to take some time to come up with the concept, to really think about how you want to distill a whole movie into basically one graphic. That's where the time, that's where the energy is going to be spent. Okay? Any questions? All right, so I will get this uploaded hopefully tonight or tomorrow. We'll have workday on Thursday. I think it's very possible that we might be able to get it finished by the end of class on Thursday. But you know, if not, that's fine. We have the rest of class today, all of Thursday, and the whole weekend if you're needing some more time. But then it'll be due on a week from today. Feel free to email me with any questions. And we're progressively getting more and more strict about deadlines and such. So this definitely should be uploaded before the beginning of class, a week from today.